So we're just going to wrap this up, and we will pick up some of these things where we left off on today, on next week along the way, or maybe we can pull off a special midweek edition of this thing so that we can stay on track for next week. I wanted to share just one of the questions or one of the comments that came because we've been kind of talking in the background here, hoping that well, we could try to get a few of the things worked out that we missed. And I'm trying to find that comment. Let's see here. I'm going to open up my. I think it came on Facebook. Yeah, here's the question. And the question was, what are the unions and conferences doing to train pastors how to meet with each age group, how to meet separate with each age group and determine the best way forward for unity in our churches? So what are the conferences and the unions doing to train pastors to meet with each age group separately and determining the best way forward? So either of you, I know you, both of you are, and again, our apologies. Pastor Hernandez had another engagement he had to go to. Pastor Henry was this close. I think he was trying to get on, and that's kind of what bumped us off a little bit earlier, and we still weren't able to get him back on. But just wanted to deal with this question, and then we're going to let you guys go. So I've got union and I've got conference with us. So what are you guys doing? Hey, watch this. What are you guys doing to train me to
I,
meet with each separate age group? That's the question.
I don't know if you want us to train you. Be
Well,
honest with you. The reality is this: when pastors are hired by the conference, they're already trained, and then there are some additional training that happens, and there's also continuing training that goes on. When it comes to meeting demographics, it is not necessarily a conference's role or a union role to train the pastor, but make available opportunities for training or opportunities for more learning in a particular field. And that is what has been happening. We have been given pastors opportunities to be a part of new initiatives that gives them what they need to be able to meet the needs of all of the age groups that they minister in. But one thing we have to be mindful of is that a pastor himself has to make that decision that this is what he needs, this is what he lacks. Because if he doesn't realize that that is what he lacks, he is not going to do it. He's not going to say, "Hey, I need the training." So he's going to kind of continue with where he's at, until something great happens and he has to really deal with it. Juan, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it also depends on the context of the pastor, depending on where he is being sent, to minister. And so the context of where you're going is important. But part of what we're attempting to do here at the Florida Conference is, like Roger said, give pastors opportunities to understand how they can better minister in their area with different trainings. One big thing that we have here is the Growing Young Adventist Initiative, and that's huge for us because we want, of course, our churches, instead of growing old and closing, to continue to reach the next generation, have them get involved in ministry, and have that church thrive. And so, but it's up to the pastor whether they want to engage with that or not. But that's part of what we're trying to do here at the Florida Conference, is to be able to help churches join this growing young Adventist movement and be able to prioritize young people and families everywhere so that they can have the opportunity to grow young and thrive and bless the families and their surroundings.
all right. Go ahead, Roger.
I was going to say that a local pastor can get in contact with his youth leader, his Sabbath school director from the conference level, and they definitely have a list of resources that can help them to meet that need. I was sharing earlier in our downtime that some pastors bring to the table professionals that are skilled in those areas. And so it's up to the pastor to make that happen. It's up to the pastor to move his church forward, bring his board with him, to bring the group with him, because he is the leader. He is the gatekeeper of his flock. And if he can work with his group, he can help move this situation forward. I have to be honest with you. When we go to school, when pastors go to school for becoming a pastor, they are taught how to parse a text, how to look at it in Hebrew, how to look at it in Greek, how to make applications. But it's another thing how to organize and run a small group in terms of moving them from point A to point B. That is not something that is taught overtly in school for pastoring. It is more a sense of something you learn on the job. And so when you get to a church, you partner with some of your lay leaders who are business leaders, who are professionals in their own right, and together they can bring synergy and direction that helps to meet the needs of all the age groups that are there at the church that are worshiping.
Okay, so here's the thing, and I think many of you listening or watching and may have said this or been a part of this, my panel, our panel, you guys may have experienced this, that oftentimes if youth ministry, if there's no youth in the church, if the youth ministry program is dying, oftentimes members are going to look at the pastor and say it's the pastor's fault. That there's no youth in the church, it's because the pastor's sermons are boring, the pastor doesn't get out and visit or know the kids, he doesn't engage with the kids, he cannot relate with the kids, and so that's why there's no young people in our church, because the pastor, and the pastor, and the pastor. It sounds like, from what I just heard, that's largely true, that it's the pastor's responsibility to engage the young people, to make sure that youth ministry is thriving. Now, I just said two different things. I don't know if you caught that. I was very intentional. I said that it is the pastor's responsibility to engage the youth, the pastor's job to make sure that youth ministry is thriving. I'm going to be honest. I think that there are some pastors and some personalities who just should not engage the youth. just that there are some I have seen, and I'm not going to even keep that at pastor level. That's just people. I've seen some people I don't want around my young people. Stay away, because every word out of your mouth seems to be derogatory, seems to be discouraging. If I was young people and you said what I just heard you say to that young person, I would not show up again. I've seen young people come in off the street in like a prayer meeting session or an AY session, and they just came. They didn't come to stay. They just happened to pass by. They popped in, and they were still in their work clothes, maybe some jeans and a lab coat or something like that. And I've heard this. Oh, we're so grateful that such and so is here. Haven't seen them in such a long time. And then as we closed out the meeting, the prayer was, Lord, thank you for bringing such and such back to church. We're so happy that he's here. We pray that you would turn his life around, keep him from doing X, Y, Z. And this is in public, and they're praying about this individual's past indiscretions, and they're broadcasting it to everybody in the building, and they're praying for him to get his soul right with God, etc., etc. Now, is that a good thing to pray, to get his soul? Yes, it is. But you just put, if I'm them, you just put all my stuff on blast in front of all these people. I don't even know half of them. Am I coming back to that? No way in the world I'm going to come back and subject myself to that. So sometimes maybe there are some people that you don't want around your young people. How do you deal with that? Because I think that's some things that we have all faced. How do you deal with that member? Do you go and say something to that member specifically? Do you preach a whole bunch of sermons? Do you do some training? Do you go and have a conversation with the young person? I think all of us know some young people who've turned away. I just don't want to be there because of how I'm treated at church. How do you deal with that?
Jump in, Juan.
I would say yes to all the above. I think you need to preach sermons on how not to be stupid, in the sense of how not to pray prayers like that. So there is some training involved to be able to let your elders know, or whoever your prayer people are, that certain prayers shouldn't be prayed. I've had conversations like that when I was pastoring with elders. And I would tell them, hey, that prayer was like way too long, or that prayer was, had an agenda behind it. So I think that you have to be honest with your leaders that are not youth friendly, and you have to preach about it. You have to allow your church to understand that there's ways that we can help love the next generation well, and that there's ways that we can connect with them. And you have to teach your congregation that every generation is different, and this specific generation has a specific need right now. And the 3 and 4 year olds that will be coming up and become teenagers in about 10 years or whatever, they're going to have different needs, especially in this, new world that we'll be living in if Christ hasn't returned yet. So there's education involved, there's training involved, there's preaching involved, and then there's those tough conversations you have to have with some members that are not youth friendly, that think maybe they are, but they're really repelling young people instead of allowing them to fall in love with the church and with the people there. So I think everything you said is yes, 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 all the above. You have to do those things. You have to do it in a prayerful manner, and you have to be able to do it in a way that God leads you to do it. Because if you don't do it, the alternative is worse. You're not going to have any young people. No one's going to come. No one's going to like your church, and the stupidity will continue to happen over and over again. It'll be a cycle that is currently killing some of our churches right now.
Yes, and I'll echo what Juan says, and I would also say I wouldn't call it a responsibility of the pastor. I would call it an opportunity of the pastor.
Okay.
The pastor has an opportunity to now interact and intersect in the lives of young people that other people may not be able to. It could be as simple as calling them by their name. There are some pastors, because they think they're young people, they're their kids. Hi, sweetie. Hi, darling. Good to see you. My daughter, how are things going? But to call them by the name, hi, Mary. How you doing today, Mary? Elevates it to another level, elevates it to an opportunity, helps them to feel that they belong. And I think it's an opportunity given pastors and not necessarily a responsibility. I think if we look at it as a responsibility, then it becomes a chore, a job. If we're not into it, we would not want to know how to minister to them, how to connect with them. We're just checking off a checkbox on it. So it's an opportunity that our pastors have to see it as an opportunity and do what it takes to maximize that opportunity. And all the things that Juan said helps us to maximize it. Preaching, educating, even having a ministry of presence, a MOP ministry, having a ministry of presence. They're showing up. You don't even have to preach. You don't have to do anything. Ooh, pastor is here. Wow, we are important that pastor came. So having a MOP ministry, and also and recognizing those crucial conversations, not just critical, but those crucial conversations that need to happen to share with our older population that young people are important to. But we also have to have it also with our young people to let them know the importance of our older population.
All right. Awesome. Look, gentlemen, I want to say thank you again for everybody. I'm going to try to go and support my young people. My school is doing a program on the conference website right now.
Excellent.
And, I'm about 45 minutes late, and I want to
My
pop
Lord.
in and make sure that they know that I am rooting for them. I support them. So, as always, on behalf of our other host, who is not here with us, Dr. Dion Henry, and our current host that is here with us, Pastor Roger Wade. Pastor Rodriguez, we want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and to be with us today. We are so sorry. We apologize for all of the technical issues that we had early on. We want to have you back because there's a couple other things that we didn't really get to today because of the lack of time. But we believe that our young people are very important, and our conversations about how they engage the church going forward, how they engage the mission of this church going forward, is going to be key to the sustainability of who we are and what we do.
Right.
And so our young people are going to be central to the discussions that we have at this pastor's roundtable. One of the other things in terms of structure that we wanted to talk about as well. Are there things about our structure that could make our ministry to our young people and with our young people more efficient? Is there something along those lines that we want to discuss, and some things that may have raised their head in the COVID-19 context that's probably might be a little bit more visible now than it was before? And so those are some of the things that we want to address as we go forward. Pastor Rodriguez, I need to let people know that I didn't invite you on here just because you are the youth director for the Florida Conference. Roger, I don't know if you know this, but Juan and I grew up in Orlando, Florida together when we were kids.
Okay.
Both of us had not a strand of white or gray hair at that time. We were students at Forest Lake Academy. We graduated from Forest Lake together back in 19... and it was just a wonderful experience. We've been friends for a long time. We've done ministry together since high school days, even in college days. And he is not just a colleague, he's also a friend. When I went to seminary, Roger, I didn't have a place to stay. And me or Pastor Henry, and we slept on his couch for the first few days that while we were looking for a place to stay, and those few days turned into a few more days, and then a few more days. But we were grateful that his wife could cook. She hooked us up. So Juan, you make sure you say hello to Odie for us.
I will do.
And hello to the family, and thank you again for the time that you spent with us today.
Awesome.
All right. God bless you guys. Take care, Roger. Take care, Ransom.
God bless everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.